All right, welcome back to Pave the Way podcast. I'm your host, Greg Helbeck, and I'm here with one of my good buddies, Steve Pesavento from good old Denver, Colorado, man. How you doing today, Steve?
I am doing great. I'm really excited to be here with you, Greg.
Awesome, awesome. So, guys, you're in for a real treat today. Steve is an investor I became pretty good friends with. We've worked with his team in the sales training department last year, and we kind of hit it off. We're similar in age. And he's a guy, believe it or not, he's been in this business for, I think, 2.5 or 3. How long have you been in the game, Steve?
Two and a half years almost.
2.5 years.
Just over 2.
And how many deals you do your first year, Steve?
I did 75 deals my first year.
That's why Steve's on the show. So you guys are going to get a treat on Steve, his beginning, his journey. A lot of good stuff we're going to cover today on how to build a team, how to generate leads, how to be consistent, how to do volume. And you guys are going to get a lot of nuggets from today's show. So make sure if you're driving, listen to this when you get home. If you're not driving, I would take out a pen and paper or my personal favorite, Evernote, and take some notes down. So, Steve, before we get into the meat and potatoes of the show, can we just tell listeners a little bit about your background, what you did before real estate investing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got into real estate investing about 2.5 years ago. But before that, I'd graduated college and I started out in management consulting. I was working in Minneapolis, where I'm originally from, and I was working the big corporate gig, working for a healthcare and a mortgage client. And, I was making the money, and I wasn't, in comparison with today, I wasn't making that much money, but at the time it was a lot of money. And I had this realization that I looked around and I saw that nobody else was passionate about what they were doing. Most of the people I was around were working for the weekend. And I thought to myself, I got to do something different. So I made a journey out to Boulder, Colorado, started working in the tech startup scene out there, was trying to find something I was more passionate about, trying to find something that fire inside could match the drive that I had. And so I worked in a number of different roles, doing some different stuff out there, including web development, managing web teams. And so when I started in real estate, I was managing web development teams. I was doing some stuff independent. I was living on the beach in Southern California at the time. I'd moved out there for a job that I hated, and it was the best thing. About 4 months into it, I had this, or 3 months into, I had this realization that this was not what I came out here for. This is not why I moved from Colorado to California for this job. That was not anything in line with what I was sold. And I was like, I'm going to make this job exactly what I thought I was coming out here for, or I'm going to get fired doing it. And I got fired. I couldn't walk away from the money they were offering me. It was too much. And thank God they fired me. Because I started doing some independent web stuff. And then I had this clarity, and I had this thing that just kept coming back up. It was this thought about real estate every 3 or 4 months. Think, oh, it'd be really cool to flip houses. It'd be really cool to own rental properties. It'd be really cool to work in real estate. But I kept having this limiting belief that I was too young, or I didn't have enough experience, or I didn't come from money. I didn't have any money. Coming with all these reasons on why I shouldn't or couldn't do it. And then it just kind of hit threshold. I hit this point where I was like, no, I must do this. I have to. And I pushed my chips all in, fired all my clients. And, 2.5 years later, we've done, over 150 deals in 2 markets. And it's been a heck of a ride.
That is a lot. That is a very interesting story. And before we shift into, the deals and stuff like that, I have a quick, just personal question. What the heck is management consulting? Because I've read about it in the 80-20 principle, but I don't know what it is. Can you just real quick, what is that?
Management consulting is a fancy word for being kind of an outsourced resource, a person, an employee, but not an employee, coming into a company kind of as a third party to come in and audit how things are working. I was working on process improvement. So there's a lot of different kinds of management consultants. But essentially what I did is I would sit down and interview everybody in the department and put together a document that would say, like, this is the current process, how it's working currently, and this is what we suggest that you modify it so that you can, on a multi-billion-dollar company, if you save a minute here in a process, you end up saving, millions of dollars. So they would pay us way too much money to come in and tell them stuff they already knew.
You already know.
Just so they could justify about changing it.
That's hilarious. Okay, so that's what it is. Okay, so Steve was a management consultant. Now he is a rock star real estate investor. So let's just hit one more thing before we get into it. So you said you were out there and you were very kind of confused and it's not like you didn't make any money. You were making some money out there. What was it about real estate? I know, people see all these commercials, but what was it about real estate? Because nowadays there's so many ways you can make a lot of money. You got internet marketing and, e-commerce. So why real estate? Because real estate's, there's can be some challenges to real estate. It's a little more barrier to entry. So what was it about real estate instead of all these other ways, entrepreneurs make money in 2019?
Well, I mean, I was making money. I doubled up my salary every time I took a new job, and I had changed careers almost every year and a half to 2 years since I started. So really wasn't sticking with anything for too long, but I kept leveling up. But for me, what it was I had this idea that real estate equaled freedom, that real estate equaled this vision of the life that I was after. And I remember, like so many other real estate investors, reading Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was like 17. And I had thought about this whole idea, right? I looked around at my parents and my upbringing, and, I was really fortunate to have the family that I did, but I also grew up in kind of a rough environment with a lot of uncertainty, a lot of variability. And I was determined to not live that life and to not bring up a family in that life, right? Single now, but visioning in the future where I'd want to be. And I thought, well, real estate's exciting. It's one of those topics that is sexy and it's fun, and it allows you to kind of create all these different opportunities with it. And so for some reason I was latched onto it and I couldn't get rid of it. And that's one of the biggest things that I think, if there's anything in your life that you keep trying to push aside over and over and over again, and it just keeps coming up, you got to do something with it. You got to go after it, because once I did, it clicked. It felt like I'm at home, and, the
rest is history. That's it. What you resist will persist, or whatever that quote is.
Oh, I like that.
I've heard that in a book. I didn't make it up. I don't make many things up. Anyway, so let's fast forward now. So this is the question all the listeners are probably thinking, especially if they're a new investor. How the heck did you do 75 deals your first year? Because that might be a record for a new investor. That's like most people. It took me 9 months to do my first deal ever. You did 75 your first year. So let's high level. How did you do 75 deals your first year? That is extremely impressive.
Yeah, it is impressive. Sometimes I'm like, we should have done 100. But, that's just that constant growth kind of mindset. Yeah. Truth be told, the way that I did it was the same way that you learn, right? It's the same way that we learn when we're children, when we're little babies, is I went and modeled others. I went and found other people who were doing what I wanted to do and were already having success with it. And I ripped off everything that they were doing, and I put my little spin on it. At first, I didn't put any spin. I just did exactly what I was told or exactly what they were doing. And I modeled it. And then over time, I started understanding more about how it worked and improving on it. And so the way that I did that was I built a scaled team with boots on the ground in another state. I could have done it locally, but I was living in SoCal at the time, and I wasn't really committed to it. And it was a tough market.
Tough market. I live here now.
In about six weeks, I put on 80 to 90, 89 offers in the MLS. I got 0 deals back. I sent 3,000 letters. I got 12 phone calls in SoCal. I was like, I need to get out of here. I need to look for another market. And I thought, well, I'm going to have to move. And then I got this insight about, essentially the strategy that is my business, which is, hiring acquisition managers to go on appointments and sending, bulk marketing. So I looked at what was working for someone else, and then I just started doing it. I started doing it at a big scale without the intent on making money. In other words, the intent was to make just enough to live, not to get rich, but to learn. So my goal going into it was I thought to myself, well, I could spend $100,000 going back to school, and I could get an MBA, and I'll meet a bunch of people, and I'll get some good experience, or I can risk that much money even if I don't have it. I'm going to risk that much money to go and build a business and get my master's degree in real estate by doing it. And so that's what we did. And over the last 2 years, we've learned a lot, and now we're in line to really start cashing in on that.
I love it, man. I think Tim Ferriss talked about something like that in Tools of Titans called the Real World MBA or something like that, and you did that in the real world. So that's awesome.
That's who I modeled. That's one of my favorite digital mentors, Tim Ferriss.
Tim Ferriss, love that guy. Great book for our work. Every book he wrote is good. Anyway, so 75. So basically, high level overview, guys. this is a business that's been around for a long time. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Steven aligned himself. The key there is he aligned himself with the right people that he could learn from. And Steve, I think some of the stuff you did, you were involved in some masterminds, right? How did you find these models? Because, not everyone and their cousin's doing 75 properties a year.
Yeah, I'll tell you about a couple of them. So the first model was, I had heard this person speak on a podcast. Well, I noticed that they were speaking at a local real estate investor meetup.
Yeah.
And then I went and searched them online. Who the heck is this person? Let me find them. And this woman was killing it. She was dominating in her space, running a lifestyle flipping business. She had ran a scaled company before, but she was just really good at it. And she was doing most of the stuff herself. So she had limited overhead. And I went in and I approached her at the event. I made an offer she couldn't refuse. I offered to build her a $15,000 website that I would normally charge $15,000 for, in order just to allow me to follow her around for a project. Yeah. And that was the first time that I really started learning kind of face to face, being able to walk through the property, being able to understand the lingo, the language, kind of having somebody with some experience to kind of give me a little confidence when I'm out at other events, connecting with other people. And then I ended up hearing about this event, Flip Hacking Live. And I was like, okay, well, I don't have the money to go, but I want to surround myself with people who are doing things that are, a couple levels up. And a friend of mine from LA was going, and I thought, okay, well, if she's going to go, I should probably go. And I spent the money. I went down there and I learned so much. But more importantly than that, I saw that it was possible to do what I wanted. I saw this model of a way of running a real estate business that was bigger than anyone else that I had seen. And there was a specific mentor, Justin Williams. And I thought, well, hey, if he can do it, I can do it. He's a smart guy. He's flipped 100 houses a year. But there's all these other people that are there, and it gave me the confidence to know that I could do it. Now, fast forward 6 months from then, ended up joining 7-figure flipping. But in the meantime, I'd connected with some people there, and I traded my time for access to their program. Now, they're not going to love that, right? They didn't love finding out 6 months down the line that I partnered with somebody and got access to their training. But what that did for me was I didn't have the money to spend on it. And I wouldn't found a way to add value to somebody else doing something that they couldn't do. And I soaked up all the information from that training. I had questions that I'd send in and he'd ask them. And I just soaked it up until we had made enough money where it was like a no-brainer for us to join. And even then I was thinking to myself, I'm not the kind of guy who's going to spend a bunch of money on some training, on some guru thing. But honestly, I ended up dropping the big check on it. And at the first event, before the first event, reading through the Facebook page, we had already earned 25,000 or more in value, which was 2 deals in our world. So it paid for itself real quick, and it changed my view on education. Now I've spent way more money than that on education. I plan to continue to spend that kind of money on learning new things because it's got me to a different level, and it's surrounded me with people that are doing things way above anything that I believed. And now I'm like, oh yeah, make $1 million a year, no big deal. I see that guy's doing it. He's doing it. They're doing it. Now I think, hey, if he can do it, I can do it.
Exactly. And it's true. That's awesome. So it's the key there is modeling and surrounding yourself with people who, and that's what really changed for me too, is once I started hanging out with people who were doing deals, it's like you're the average of the 5 people you're hanging out with. And that's where it changed for me too, man. So let's get into some of the stuff here. So, 75 deals a year, that's a lot of deals. So in order to do a lot of deals, you have to have a lot of leads. So what are some of Steven's keys to having a successful lead generation machine? And I want people to pay attention to that last where I said it's machine. Steven, what are you doing right now? Share what you want to share. Anything, if you want to keep some stuff close to the vest, that's cool too. What are you doing right now to have a successful lead generation machine? So when we get into the team building stuff of the show, we're going to be able to, tie it all into these are the leads that they're, now processing and taking through that machine to a closed deal and a sale.
Yeah, the truth is I don't have to hold back much because what I'm doing is what everyone else is doing. We're just doing it better than most people. And sure, there's some people who are, they're doing it better than us, but we're constantly improving and learning and trying to build on that. So our main marketing channels is, pay-per-click, direct mail, cold calling is really popular right now. We do all the things you might expect if you were going to go on to Bigger Pockets and read about going after going after motivated sellers.
Yeah.
What we do that's maybe a little bit different than what you might read about is because we're building a scaled business. It's a machine. I got a whole team of people that need to eat. That means they need leads to go on. They need appointments to be set. And so we're marketing to high equity, people who are over, the age 45, people who've owned their house for more than 5 years, houses that kind of fit like a certain category that we're looking for. But we're blanketing these people and we're mailing them every single month. We're hitting them with PPC every month. We're calling them. We're doing all the things at a really high velocity. We're hitting them often, and we're making sure that we're in front of them when they get to a point where they have a motivational event happen in their life where they might be in a place where they might buy our service. So the key to us, the key to the machine, is that we're doing it consistently and that we're measuring our numbers. And a big lesson learned here, there was a point in time where frankly, I was too busy, or the team was too busy. We had too much stuff coming in and we weren't measuring our numbers. And those were the worst months because we weren't able to adapt and change to, all of a sudden 3 or 6 months down the line, we realized, wait, this marketing channel isn't working anymore.
Yeah.
What changed? And we'd already spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing. And so now, on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, we're checking, we're seeing what's working and what's not. And we're kind of tweaking it. We're making changes. Like right now, we're actually completely changing up our whole marketing strategy. And I don't even know what that looks like yet. Otherwise I'd share it, but we'll find out.
That's awesome. No, that's awesome, man. That's the key that Steve said there is if you want to be consistent in this business, you need to be consistent with your lead generation activities. Steven's doing this at a higher scale right now. He's been doing this for a while now. But the key is you got to be consistent. If you're doing direct mail, I think direct mail is something that I struggled with so early on in my career because I had the wrong expectations and I wasn't consistent. So Steven, would you say direct mail right now is probably at least 50% of your lead gen?
I'd say it's at least 50%.
50%. So with the direct mail, I think the big issue that a lot of investors run into is that they're sending their campaigns and they're having the wrong expectations going in. Would you say, I want to kind of talk about this with our listeners, most people calling off direct mail are not going to be good prospects. Would you agree with that? Most people.
I'd say, here's the deal, man. I expect 99.5% of people that receive my postcards to be
garbage,
not a fit.
No.
But that 0.5% or maybe even less now, honestly, it's less
crazy
because it's so competitive. I'm expecting 0.5. That means I'm failing on a marketing campaign 99.95% of the time.
Yes.
It's a failure. But we're just looking for that one. And so we do things at a big enough scale. We're getting enough phone calls coming in that it trickles down to an appointment and therefore to a contract.
Exactly. And then that goes from there. So the key, guys, is to be consistent when you're generating leads. And Steve, what are you seeing on average? A lot of people like numbers, probably listen to the show. What are you seeing, if you have to take a blended average between the two markets you're buying in, what would you say your average cost per buy is? I can share with you what mine are, also too, because I think I like to always compare my cost per buy, with other people in the country to see what's more expensive and what's cheaper. So what's like your average cost per buy if you had to come up with a rough number?
So ours has gone through the roof, which is part of the reason why we're making some shifts. And that's because, the big iBuyers are coming in and they're blanketing our market, and change happens, right? You just adapt with it. I actually think it's great. They don't buy some stuff that we buy. They're also bringing a legitimacy to our style of buying. So I think it's great that they're here. It just, it's changing up our margins. And so right now, a deal is costing us anywhere between $4,500 and $6,500 per deal in marketing cost alone, not overhead, not commissions, not anything else. So that's big. It's almost doubled from where it was about a year ago. And so what we're doing is we're looking at those numbers and we're shifting them. We're thinking, okay, well, where are we getting the most opportunity, the best ROI? We're going to push more into that channel or those channels. We're going to pull back on a couple others and try to tweak it and get back to a number that is much more profitable.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you shared that because there's a lot of people that's happening, and that happened to me. Mine's a little bit less because I'm not doing as much volume. Mine's probably in between, if it's direct mail, in between $2,000 and $3,000, I'd say. But what I was doing is I'm taking a lot of these marketing methods now, like cold calling and skip tracing, and I'm taking that, my cost per contract, which is very cheap with that, and then I'm synthesizing that with the direct mail, which is kind of giving me a lower blended cost per buy.
That's great.
So that's what we're doing. But yeah, no, I definitely think some of these higher competitive markets, you should have, I mean, if you're in a major market, you should be looking to spend at least $3,000, cost per buy, like in a competitive, hyper competitive market. That's realistic. And if you can spend 3 to make 15, a net 12, I mean, that's a pretty good return on investment. Spend 3 to make 15, that's not bad. So it's all about having those right expectations going in. So,
and spending six to make 15 is not bad either.
No.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's like the cost is whatever the cost is. But for somebody like me who's running a business and I got a lot of mouths to feed and we got a lot of overhead.
Yeah.
You really got to keep an eye on that, from going from like a single proprietor, a single investor to a team. There's all this extra cost that you don't expect. And at a certain level, the business doesn't work. Like we have to do a certain number of deals every month to even break even. And then after that, that's gravy. And so for us, we're just constantly watching those numbers. Where are we at? How are we doing overall? What can we do to get there? And how can we bring ourselves to that next level?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the difference between running like a high volume business and then some guys, if they're just getting started, they want to get their first couple deals. Steven's got a team. He's got, acquisitions. People are actually going to pivot to the team part of the show right now, but it's a different situation when you got a big team and some mouths to feed. So Steve, something you've been very good at, I've worked with your team before in the past is, having the right people, especially in the right seats. That's from, I think, Jim Collins, Good to Great. So what are you looking for when it comes to hiring a good team that's going to be reliable? Because a lot of people run into issues when it comes to hiring, especially in this business. They get people who aren't in the right fit, and it becomes chaos for them, and they go back to being a one-man show, and that works for some people. It works for me right now. I have a couple people, but not like a big team like you.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've had moments, Greg, where I've looked at it, and I've been like, I should just let everybody go.
Yeah.
I'll just do this on my own. Yeah. But really, like for me, that it doesn't match like my vision, my why, my purpose, like what I'm trying to build. So right now at my point, I'm going to persist with what's working. Yeah. If you're a single proprietor, that also works. It works really well. To answer your question, the key to finding and building a good team, it's all in the people, and it's all in being really clear in who you are as a company and who they need to be, right? So culture is a huge fit. It's a huge piece of the fit conversation. We want to know, for our company in particular, we're really big on personal development. We're really big on growth. We're really big on continuous training, pushing yourself to the next level. And so we want people who are passionate about what they're doing, who already have sales skills or whatever skill that they're coming in. We want them to be pre-trained. We can't afford to train somebody from 0 to 100. We want them to come in with at least a baseline, and we can teach them a lot about our industry. We can teach them a lot about whatever it is that they're doing in their role, but we want them to have already learned some of this stuff on their own, or be willing to come in, pretty much on 100% commission and take the risk themselves. Right. And so that weeds out a lot of people, because culturally, not everyone's going to be the right fit. Not all people are going to jive well with me, or the company culture. The other big thing about hiring a team is that you really want to spend time getting to know the person, right? So one thing that we do when we're hiring is we put out a job post. And right now I'm hiring for a sales role out in North Carolina, to add some more, horsepower to our team. And I have 4 or 5 job postings up. 4 or 5 job postings. It's crazy. It's stupid, but it works. So I've got a bunch of different job postings with different styles of sales background that it'd be looking for to kind of create this funnel. And so all these people apply. Sometimes people apply to all of them. I can see that. So they apply to all these roles. And then one big thing for us that goes along with cultural fit is making sure that the personality fit, that their natural personality profile fits what is likely to succeed in that role. And so for a sales role, we know this person is going to be really good at sales. They're going to have the natural ability to be assertive enough, to be people oriented enough, to have a lack of detail orientation, which seems like a negative, but actually it's really good because they don't believe that they need to know everything in order to go and sell.
That's so key. Oh my goodness.
And so we do personality profiling as a way to filter. So what I like to do is I have all these people apply, hundreds and hundreds of applicants, and then I run them through these profiles. And then the people who fall into the category on those profiles, then I look at those resumes and I do a quick scan. Hey, does this person have some sales background if I'm hiring a salesperson? And I'm going to kind of go through that process And then I'm going to jump into a phone interview. And that is the next two pieces are the key to hiring a good salesperson, right? You've filtered, you've got them to this point. You're going to get them on the phone and you're going to ask them a couple questions. And what you're trying to do is get a feeling for like, do I like this person? Does this person, are they going to sell me? Are they going to sell me on themselves? Are they going to ask me questions? Are they going to try to turn the interview around so that they can find out what they need to qualify me as a owner, as a potential job opportunity? And then the in-person interview is all culture-based. It's all diving into like who they are, what challenges they've dealt with. Because like for a salesperson, you really want them to have dealt with some adversity, in my opinion. You want them to have gone through some real crap in their life, but that they've overcome and succeeded, because in sales, as you know, Greg, 90% of the time you're failing.
100%.
That 10% is where you make all the money.
Exactly. No, that's awesome. That guy, Steve just gave you absolute gold on hiring people. I mean, take that, what he just said, rewind the last 10 minutes, apply that, and you will see changes. So Steve, so you're hiring now, but how are you doing this remotely? I mean, if you have a salesperson, do you have one of your other, like, cause you're in two markets, you're in North Carolina and then Minnesota, right? Mm-hmm. So what are you doing, like, before you bring somebody on the team, assuming their role is not a remote role where they have to physically go to property? Are you going out to that market to put the final stamp on that? Or are you having somebody else in that market make sure that they're not, going to be a big issue, and they're going to kind of give you like their word over the phone?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I've learned over time is I like to make quick decisions and I like to go with it. I like to follow my gut. Yeah. Sometimes I've been off because I've trusted in somebody too much. Yeah. And so now my strategy is actually to slow down the process, get more people involved, and get more touches on that person involved. So well before I hire them, I've talked to them 4 or 5 times, or somebody from my team has talked to them. So for a remote position, I like to meet people face to face and size them up and see if they're a fit. But often, now that I got this team and the team's great and I trust them, I'll send them to go shadow on an appointment if it's a sales role. So they'll go do a shadow, they'll do an interview, they'll get a feel for the role, they'll ask a bunch of questions. And I'm having other people on my team kind of say, hey, yeah, this is going to be a good person, because I want them to be committed to that person's success as well. Yeah. They're going to be a part of that training process, because I am not going to be available 90% of the time to go out there and train them and to be there. It's going to be the other salespeople bringing them up. Right. So that's a big piece of it. Is relying on other people. But to be honest, like, you just got to fly out. I spend time in North Carolina and Minnesota, and I don't spend as much time as I did when I was starting, which I was going out there every 3 weeks, which is a little bit crazy. Yeah. But now I'm probably going out every 6 to 8 weeks just to go check in and meet with people face to face and get a little of that energy. But for the most part, you can do everything online.
Exactly. The power of technology.
Jump into a video interview, all those good things.
That's awesome. So one more thing on the hiring and the team stuff. And are you doing like with your team, especially you're in 2 markets now, are you doing a weekly, like a huddle almost? Like, do you have a team meeting once a week to make sure? Because that's when I had a little bit bigger of a team and I had a full-blown partner, we did that, and it was much easier to get stuff done because we'd go through what's the objectives and everyone kind of put their 2 cents in, and then we would go from there. So are you doing a variation of that now?
Yep, absolutely. So this morning, Monday mornings, is a team meeting. And so we get everyone together for about 45 minutes. We run through our KPI numbers for the week. We find out why people are not hitting their numbers, why they are hitting their numbers. We talk about what's working. We talk about what's not working. And we try to make it more of a conversation. And so one of the big things from a mindset perspective, because I'm a big believer in, personal growth and keeping the right state of mind and, being positive and goal focused, every meeting we start with our gratitudes. So we have one thing we're grateful for personally and one thing we're grateful for professionally. And so we start off that meeting with that every week. And I'll be honest, for the first 3 or 4 weeks, people were like dragging to share this kind of stuff. I had to pull it out of them. But at this point now, they've got a little bit of a habit. They're thinking about that stuff during the week. And what's nice about it is because we are a remote team, it gives us a chance to have a little banter, to hear about what's going on in people's lives. Just about a week ago, I spent, 5 days volunteering at a Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within event. I'm a big I'm a big Tony fan. So it was really great to be out there, contribute, and to help people through that journey. And it was so great to come back on Monday morning and hear about everyone else's great week, and then to be able to share some insights from that I was grateful for. And so that really like sets the tone for us, and it brings us together on a regular basis. And the other thing is, once we start communicating more openly, people start sharing feedback on what's not working. So this week we had a little bit of a problem where some of our salespeople were not following up as quickly or making offers as quickly as they promised. And our inside sales team was a little frustrated with it, right? And they came to me to share that frustration. And I love that they came to me. But what I asked them to do is actually just go and share it directly, right? That we're a team, we're all in this together, everyone's bottom line is tied to each other. And so we've now built an environment where people are, they're providing feedback and they're saying, hey, this is what I need from you for us to succeed, because we're, a symbiotic company.
Love it, man. That was awesome. Yeah. And the key is that the constant communication is the key, especially when you're remote. Everyone is like not letting stuff drag through. You're having the consistent meetings once a week. Everyone's putting their thoughts on the table, and you're getting to the issues, and you're coming up with solutions to overcome them. And I think seems to me like that's the key, especially for you investing in two markets, is the consistent communication with the right people in the right seats.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, if you're going to be working remotely and you're going to have salespeople, you need to trust that they're doing what they say they're doing. But you need to trust but verify, right? So those KPI tracking, that's so important, because otherwise I have no idea what they're doing. And so for a long time, I was only tracking those KPIs once a week. Well, now at the end of every day, they send a little message in Slack that everyone can see, and it says how many appointments they've gone on so far, how many calls did they make, how many contracts did they get, what challenges are they running into, and they're kind of outlining all these numbers. And if I'm active in management, I'm taking a look at those and I'm saying, hey, well, what's going on here? Hey, can somebody help you out with this? And it's giving us that feedback loop a lot faster. And so, in a perfect world, I'd love to get that every hour, but it's probably asking a little bit too much. But the quicker that you can get that feedback loop coming around from a team perspective is so important. But you really have to trust people, right? So I hired an operations manager who's really focused just on the North Carolina market, and he's making sure that everything is going on down there. And so after about 3 or 4 months of training, like, I know that he's got it. So he's going to make the call. He's going to do most of the stuff. And if he needs something from me, he's going to come to me for it.
That's awesome. No, that's awesome. Guys, you just got some pure gold from Steven here, who really knows what he's doing when it comes to building a team. So as we shift towards the end of the show here, I want to talk about, I love this one question, just because I'm always fascinated on the types of deals people do. Steve, what's the best deal you've ever done so far in real estate wise? Let's just make it profit related, like the fattest deal you've done. Let's go through it, from start to finish. Where was the lead source? Why was it a good deal? What were the numbers looking like? And what'd you learn from it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've had a lot of great deals, and we've had some deals that are so great. One of our best deals actually was this little parcel of land. It was actually a tear down property. It had a terrible house on it, but it was big enough to be split into 2 lots. And when we put it under contract, we weren't sure if it was, can we renovate it? Does it need to be a tear down? It's in a price point in our market that's really high. So we were kind of concerned about that. And in Raleigh, an $800,000 purchase price for a single family home is huge.
Yeah. That's like buying the Taj Mahal down there.
Exactly. And so we got this one. This one was via direct mail. This person called us. We had, followed up with them for a while. They had thought about selling the house. It was vacant. It had previously been rented, and it was in rough shape. But we could only afford to pay a certain amount of money for it if we couldn't split the lot. And the way that it ended up working out was we had about 30 days originally on the original contract. We couldn't get the information from the city quick enough. And so we went back to that seller and said, hey, here's the deal. Unfortunately, I can't pay what we had hoped we could, because we haven't got this confirmation from the city. There's a couple of things that are kind of holding us up. This is our expectation of what we're going to do with the property. And if we can do that, we can pay you what you were looking for. If we can't, we honestly, we can't move forward, and we can't take the risk of closing on it unless we get this thumbs up. So we did was we went back to that seller, and she was like, well, hey, how long do you need? what are you working with? Because we were honest with her, because we were having this open communication, because we had built rapport, we ended up increasing our offer price by $5,000, not much, but she got an extra $5,000 to hang out for 90 days while we worked with the city to have the lot split in half. And so we got the confirmation that we could have it split. We already had it listed on the MLS as 2 separate lots. And when it ended up coming down to it, we sold that to a builder with the approved plans to split it without tearing down the house, without doing any work. And we made about $115,000 on that property.
Wow. Did you do the permit? Did you do the permits and everything, or did you sell to the builder and he dealt with all that BS?
We went through the process from start to finish to get it all approved.
Okay, approved.
We didn't finalize any of it. We didn't do the permits, but we worked with the city for those 90 days to get it approved. And then we double closed it.
Oh yeah.
Of course.
Did you, is this a residential parcel or did you get it rezoned commercial?
Yeah, it was residential. So it went from being able to put 1 house on it to being able to put 2, and that increased the value dramatically.
Oh yeah. I love it, man. Look at that. That's getting creative, and looking at deals from different angles. It's something I do now a lot of. So that's awesome. And those 6-figure deals, man, those make a serious difference. I mean, it's when your average deal size is, the industry is probably in between maybe 15 and 30 grand if you're wholesaling. And then if you're closing on them, I mean, when you can have a 6-figure net profit deal, that is just like, it's unbelievable. You're like, oh my God, I just made $100,000 on one deal. So
it's awesome. A big deal. And if you wanted to go and do something like that and you're new to the game, here's the key person you need to go and find. You need to go and find an engineer. So go and talk to builders, developers, find out what engineers they're working with, find out what surveyors they're working with, and go and build some relationships with those people. If that wouldn't have worked out, it still would have cost us $3,000 to $4,000 to do all the work that we did. So we took the risk to improve the property value. And if we wouldn't have been able to buy it, we would have lost money. But, the juice was worth the squeeze to take.
That's awesome. Was the lot, real quick before we go into the worst deal, was the lot, was the total acreage, was the total lot size around 1 acre, or was it even bigger than 1 acre? Because in North Carolina, because I look at that stuff when I market for deals. I'll look at those properties on purpose and market to those ones and try to split the lot. Yeah.
So if I remember correctly, I believe it was about a 14 or 15,000 square foot lot, and the average lot size in the neighborhood was like 7,500.
Oh,
so it ended up fitting well into that. There was other bigger lots, and it would have been fine selling it as that size of a lot, because a big house is going to go on there. But as soon as you can put more houses on a piece of land, your value of that land goes way up. Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's stuff. That's actually something I look for now. Is I look for properties that are on 14, 30, 45 acres, and can I get that subdivided? I'll call an engineer and I'll look for that stuff, because you can identify those deals, especially the rezones. I mean, there's guys I know, you can make 500, 600K wholesaling these things. It's insane. Oh yeah. Oh, it's serious. Anyway, so let's get into your worst deal ever real quick. Your worst deal ever, what was the situation? What'd you learn from it? And, hopefully our listeners can learn from your experience and not from their experience losing money. Yeah. I mean, here's the deal. When I've done 150 deals. We've done over, 50 or 60 flips, obviously some land splits and some new builds. We've done a lot of deals. We're going to lose some money. That's just part of the game. And if you're not losing money, then you're not taking big enough swings, and that's fine. I'm a risk taker, so I'm okay losing a little bit because it ends up evening out, and I learned a lot from it. So on this deal, this was actually one that we just closed this. And so we just took the loss, and it feels great to have it closed. It was so exciting to finally have that closed. I can't even tell you. It doesn't feel great to look at a negative number on the P&L, but for the property P&L. But anyways, we bought this property, and it was in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Okay. And we met with the seller who had foreclosed on somebody he had lent money to. Oh, and what this person had done was they had essentially stripped this house down to the foundation. They built new, but it wasn't considered new because they had left enough of the original foundation in place. They did a bunch of stuff wrong. The house was almost done, and we thought we were going to put 30 or 40,000 into finishing the house. And my partner on this property, builder, developer, flipper, he knows what he's doing. but even with experience, you're going to run into challenges. So what happened with this property is we bought it about a year ago. So there's one thing right there.
Goodness.
We've been holding on to it for a year. So that's about $58,000 in financing costs. So actually, I just figured that we lost about $58,000 on it, and our investor made $58,000. So there's where all the profit went.
Oh man, what do they say in the gold rush? Don't dig for gold, sell the shovels.
Exactly. But what happened with this one was that it was just a unique house, and it was in a unique neighborhood, and it had some problems with it. Right, the curb appeal wasn't great. Even though the house looked great, it was kind of up on a hill. There wasn't an area for a garage, and in most of North Carolina, that's not a big deal. But in this price point, it was, and we didn't really know that going into it. The other problem that we didn't know about was the house was built on a hill, and there was a hill behind the house, and there was a retaining wall that was already there. But for some reason, the builder, when they had built the house, they didn't take that hill back far enough, and so there was a little bit concern. We thought, okay, maybe we'll spend $30,000 to $40,000 on this retaining wall. We got a little bit of a reduction on the price. We bought it for $260 instead of $280. And we just wanted to get the deal done. We thought, okay, there's going to be some other upside. Maybe this guy is going to invest with us in the future. That didn't work out. Never buy a deal because you think of something else might happen.
Yeah.
But the deal just ended up taking forever. The permitting process was a pain. It was very similar to California, where they'd come out and they'd tell us, oh, well, you need to fix this. And then we'd fix that. And they'd come and flag us for something they already approved. And we went through that like 6 or 7 times. So at the end of the day, that retaining wall didn't cost us $30,000 or $40,000. It cost us $100,000. And we just went way over budget. So when we sold that thing for $410,000, it was the best. We thought we were just going to have to hold on to it. We didn't know what we were going to do.
Refi it and hold it as a rental. Oh my God.
Yeah, but it was way too expensive.
Rental. Yeah.
So we lost $58,000 on it, and it's no fun to lose money, but you definitely learn a lot from that. Don't take on deals that you don't know for sure what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, especially right, like what you said there. It's getting involved in the deal. Like, you could have maybe put that under contract, and if you couldn't find a buyer, you can always go back and get out of the contract. But especially when you're going to take property down with your money, with investor money, with partner money, once you get involved, whether your money or your credit, that's when it's game time, because that's when you got your money on the line, and now it's like, all right, capital's on the street, and you got to really do your homework before you get involved. So yeah.
But here's the other big thing here, right? So people hear about investors losing money, and they think to themselves like, oh, I'm concerned about lending money to this person because they lost money on a deal. Well, frankly, the longer that you do real estate, the more likelihood that you're going to lose money. But the most important thing to underline is that if you're working with reputable investors, i.e. reputable flippers, reputable people like me and you, operators, we're going to pay back that money no matter what. My investors made more money last year than our company did overall on all the deals that we did. And that's because no matter what happens, they're going to get paid, because, that's what comes first. And now, because they see that, they're always going to keep coming back. They're going to keep investing with us because they know that we're trustworthy and we're going to do the job that we promised we're going to do.
Exactly. Being a good steward of capital, and no matter what, you get that investor your money back. You got to be more careful with if I use money from an investor, I'm way more, like, I'm a careful person, but if I get investor money, I am way more careful with that money. I'm going to be vet that deal even harder, because I pay cash for properties down in Texas. I'll use my own funds. And I'm obviously, I'll do my due diligence, do my homework. But if I'm taking out investor money for a property, especially a high-end house, I'm watching that money like a hawk. I'm doing my homework, inspections, oil tanks, everything. Because that's like, once you got that person's money, their savings, whatever it is, that's a lot of trust. It's a lot of trust. So big takeaway there for all the listeners. So Steve, as we wrap this show up, man, what if people like what you had to say, and we dropped so much value today, what would be the best 2 or 3 ways for people to get in touch with you? And I want to also talk about the new podcast you're launching and the new website that you're bringing out. It's very cool stuff so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're interested in connecting or learning more about what we do, you can head over to Facebook, add me on Facebook. You can head to Instagram. My handle is seenbysteven, S-E-E-N, seenbysteven on Instagram. Got a lot of great content coming out. And then, of course, we have the Investor Mindset podcast, which is launching just in a few weeks here. So we're really excited about the podcast and everything that that we're going to be able to bring out there for anybody who has ran into challenges along the way and thought to themselves, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep going. This is it's the content that you're looking for. We talk a lot about investing, but we spend most of our time talking about how you can be the best person that you are, how you can go out there and be successful like Greg and look up to great mentors.
Awesome. So the investor, so would the website be theinvestormindset.com?
You got it. Theinvestormindset.com. And you can go to iTunes. You can go to Stitcher. You can go to anywhere that you might listen to a podcast. Just search The Investor Mindset. You're going to see it's going to pop right up, and just hit subscribe. Check it out. Let us know if you like it, and join the community.
Awesome. Well, Steven, thank you so much for being a guest on our show today. People will certainly be reaching out to you, I'm sure. And I hope you have yourself a wonderful day, man. We'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg.
Awesome.